Hey guys, here's another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So today, as promised, for those of you that follow, I tore into the yellow, very yellow 71 Ghia. Started obviously pulling the motor out. Let's talk about that first. I guess we'll kind of go in the order that I did things today. So started off the morning by pulling the motor out. Came out pretty easy, nothing really fought me per se. I did have to remove the rear breastplate there to get it out. It didn't seem like it was going to come out, but it came off pretty easily, and then the motor came straight out and straight down basically, and there it is. So I'm waiting on a quote for our shop that rebuilds long blocks to rebuild the long block. We'll take care of everything else. I'm going to recommend to the owner that we go ahead and do a rebuild. He states that the car was running really good when it was parked. I don't remember 20, 30 years ago. And I believe him, but the motor is very, very oily. It's obviously a very leaky motor. It's going to be kind of hard to see underneath. I guess you can kind of get an idea there some, but yeah, the whole underneath of this motor is just nasty like that. So regardless of how it's running, it obviously leaks a lot. So that's what I'm going to recommend. Again, I need to get a quote on rebuilding the long block for the shop that we use. And so that'll be the recommendation. If he just really doesn't want to spend the money to rebuild it, then what we'll do is we'll tear it down to a long block. We'll send off all the tin work and everything for powder coating. Actually, we'll do that either way, right? But then if he doesn't want it rebuilt, I'll probably try and pressure wash it or something. Obviously, plug up everything, pressure wash it best I can, clean it, scrub it, and then put it back together. Actually, before that, though, I should back up a little bit. If he doesn't want it rebuilt, then what we'll probably do is we'll do a leak down test on it, maybe a compression test. If those look good, then we may even throw it on the dyno. I think I mentioned this before, and see if it's making the expected horsepower, which should be in the neighborhood of 50 or so for a 1600 dual port. And then, if it's just really not, failing the leak down test or whatever, then we'll have to rebuild it. But yeah, I'll give the owner some options and see what they want to do. Again, my recommendation is we just go ahead and do a full rebuild. It's a very leaky motor. And kind of regardless of how well it runs, if we end up testing that. So motor came out, and then from there I started tearing into the brakes. Got the brakes pretty much disassembled. I'll probably go ahead and pull the backing plates and redo the bearing seals here, re-grease those bearings. For an IRS car, the seal is not nearly as critical, so to speak, because it's not holding in transmission oil, which on a swing axle car it is. So these don't really tend to be an issue like they are on swing axle cars. But I may go ahead and pull it apart just so I can really clean the very nasty backing plates and everything. And then I ordered today new wheel cylinders, new brake shoes, obviously, all new rubber lines, etc., etc. Tore apart the front as well. The front of this car is equipped with disc brakes. So we'll see. I'll run those over to a shop that we use and let them measure them, see if they're worth machining down or not. The thing with disc brake rotors is they've gotten to be so cheap that it almost makes more sense to just throw new ones on there. So we'll see. I'd like to save my customers some money, but yeah, we'll maybe go ahead and measure those, see where they are, and then decide if we want to throw new ones on or have those machined if they're still machinable. Likewise, pulled off the master cylinder and got it all disconnected. So that was pretty much it for the brakes. Everything came off without too much drama. Didn't seem to be much of any brake fluid in the system, so luckily I didn't have brake fluid puking all over me as I was laying under it, taking it apart. The other thing then that I did was remove the gas tank. The gas tank is actually pretty nice. It had been replaced at some point. You can see it sitting right there. So yeah, and on the inside it looks pretty good. So I think we're probably going to reuse it. We were thinking we were probably going to have to replace it. I think the assumption was that it was the original gas tank in the car and that it was full of sludgy, nasty gasoline, but it was actually okay. And it is an aftermarket tank, but it's in really good shape. So I think we're going to clean it up a little bit and roll with it. Oh, hello. The other thing that I did today was to start basically going through the wiring. We're going to put a whole new wiring harness in this car. This car had a lot of stuff added to it over the years, like so many of these do. The current owner's dad had flat towed the car a lot, so he had some harnesses in there for I guess to operate the brake lights and stuff when he flat towed it. And there's just wires everywhere. It's a very old wiring harness, 50 plus years old, so it makes most sense, especially when it looks like that, to just replace it, because we could go in and try and clean it up and everything, but it would probably take almost as long, honestly, and at the end of the day you'd still have 50 plus year old wires and connections. So I started basically going in and unplugging everything instead of just cutting everything out. I like to kind of go in more methodically and unplug stuff, so you can see that the fuse box there is completely unplugged. This right here is the main harness from the back of the car. Right here, you can see it. Right there's my finger coming right there. So that's the one that runs all the way to the back of the car. So it's completely disconnected now. This is the driver's side headlight and turn indicator harness, the passenger side one. So now pretty much that those are all disconnected. I want to go and disconnect the gauges. So that's the speedometer, and then there's a fuel gauge, and then I think it's a voltmeter on here. So I'll go ahead and kind of disconnect those methodically. And then at that point, once I get in the new harness, then I'll use the old harness to pull the new one through, at least the main harness and the let's see, these things even have a dome light. Should be a dome light in here somewhere. No? Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, we'll pull the harness through the new one and get it installed. The fuse box, I'll probably pull it out. It may be okay to just clean up and use. We'll see. But that is it. So yeah, a lot of progress on this one, basically tearing things apart, but you got to do that before you put them back together. So that is pretty much it. Got some brake parts ordered for it today, so probably start on the brakes next week and see what we're going to do with the motor. The transmission as well. I think this was, I don't think this was a running, driving car, but the transmission, you can see, is very leaky. There's just lots and lots of crud around it. It was obviously leaking pretty bad. This car is going to be a nice driver, so to me at least, it doesn't make any sense to put it back together with a transmission that obviously leaks a lot like that. So I'm going to recommend to the owner that we go ahead and pull the transmission out and go through it. It's not terribly expensive to rebuild a transmission, and it's just going to make the car that much nicer. You don't really know also what kind of abuse the transmission's had over those 50 some odd years of life. So yeah, we'll see. But that is it for today. That is it for this week. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you Monday. Thanks. Bye.